A powerful Dubai Sheikh vanished on a secret California trip. A week later, half his body was found floating in a river, and the woman he trusted had disappeared without a trace. What really happened behind closed doors? In the shimmering city of Dubai, Sheikh Omar Al-Fahim lived a life few could imagine. At 47, he stood among the region's most powerful men, known for his influence in oil, real estate, and international finance. His face often appeared in glossy magazines beside luxury cars and foreign dignitaries. To the public, he was the perfect symbol of wealth and success, a man who had everything. Yet behind his controlled image was a life filled with secrets. Those closest to him spoke of his distant behavior, his frequent disappearances, and his sudden trips abroad that never seemed to make it onto official records. While his advisors believed these travels were for confidential business, the truth was far more personal. Omar had grown restless with the predictable rhythm of his life in Dubai. Despite his fortune, he felt trapped by tradition and expectation. He craved freedom, the kind that could only be found far away from his royal image. It was during one of his overseas ventures that he met a woman who would change everything. Their connection was instant, dangerous, and deeply hidden. What began as an escape from duty soon turned into an obsession that blurred the line between love and risk. To protect his reputation, Omar maintained a second identity. Under this alias, he purchased a quiet villa in California's wine country, a place where no one asked questions and few recognized him. It became his private sanctuary, a world away from the desert palaces and guarded compounds of home. No one in Dubai suspected that their celebrated sheikh was leading a double life across the ocean. It was a secret he believed he could control, but as time would reveal, that illusion of control would end in the most gruesome and public way imaginable. Lena Hart was 33, a striking woman whose charm drew attention wherever she went. She worked as a real estate agent in Los Angeles, selling luxury homes to the rich and restless. Her colleagues admired her confidence and style, though few knew much about her life beyond work. She lived in a modern home outside Sacramento, a property she claimed to have bought with inheritance money. In truth, much of her wealth came from a man she rarely spoke about, a man who visited only a few times a year, but whose presence shaped every part of her world. Lena met Sheikh Omar Al-Fahim at a private charity gala in Beverly Hills. He was mysterious, reserved, and unlike anyone she had met before. Their affair began quietly, built on secrecy and allure. Omar flew her to hidden villas, showered her with expensive gifts, and promised her a future beyond her dreams. For a while, Lena believed him. She enjoyed the thrill of living between two worlds, one of glamour and another of shadow. Yet as the years passed, she began to see cracks in the fantasy. Omar's visits became shorter, his tone colder. He grew possessive and distant, controlling her movements and questioning her every decision. Despite the tension, Lena couldn't walk away. She had built her life around his promises, and without him, everything would collapse. Her lifestyle depended on the money he provided, but her emotions depended on the illusion of his love. The relationship turned toxic, an unspoken battle between dependence and resentment. She started keeping secrets of her own, saving cash and deleting messages, fearing that one day his world would destroy hers. Neither of them knew that their next meeting in California would turn that fear into something far more deadly. The Sheikh's final journey to California began like all the others, quiet, discreet, and carefully planned. On a cool September evening, Omar boarded his private jet in Dubai under the guise of a business trip. His assistants booked hotel rooms he would never use, while his security staff were told he needed privacy. After landing in San Francisco, he dismissed his driver and rented a car under his alternate name. The black Mercedes slipped onto the highway, gliding through the rolling hills toward Lena Hart's secluded home near Sacramento. Surveillance cameras later showed him arriving just after sunset, carrying a small leather bag and a bouquet of white lilies. That was the last confirmed sighting of Sheikh Omar Al-Fahim alive. The following morning, Lena's neighbors noticed the black car still parked outside. By noon, they saw the blinds closed and lights on inside, though no one came or went. At dusk, an unfamiliar black SUV appeared in the driveway, remaining there until late night. Then, without warning, both vehicles disappeared. For days afterward, Lena's phone went unanswered. Friends assumed she was traveling, unaware that something unthinkable had occurred inside that quiet suburban home. Meanwhile, in Dubai, Omar's staff began to panic. He missed important meetings, failed to respond to messages, and his private security team couldn't locate him. His family, known for their discretion, contacted U.S. authorities after 3 days of silence. Investigators began tracing his movements and quickly discovered that his flight records ended in California, where his rental car was listed as unreturned. When officers visited Lena's home, they found it locked and eerily quiet. Mail was piling up by the door, and the backyard gate was ajar. Something was terribly wrong, but no one could yet imagine how dark the truth would be. A week after Sheikh Omar vanished, a fisherman along the Sacramento River made a discovery that would stun the world. While casting his line early in the morning, he noticed something large drifting near the riverbank, tangled in reeds. At first, he thought it was debris, but as he drew closer, a sickening realization struck him. It was a human torso, wrapped tightly in plastic and bound with heavy stones. He alerted the authorities immediately, and within hours the quiet riverside was transformed into a crime scene buzzing with investigators, divers, and reporters. The medical examiner's team carefully retrieved the remains, noting that the body had been cleanly cut in half at the waist. No head, arms, or legs were found nearby. Inside the plastic wrap, detectives discovered a gold bracelet engraved with Arabic lettering. It was this detail that first linked the victim to Sheikh Omar Al-Fahim. DNA testing confirmed the identity days later, setting off a media storm that reached from California to Dubai. The gruesome nature of the discovery, half a body belonging to one of the Middle East's most powerful men, became international news overnight. Investigators faced more questions than answers. How did a wealthy foreign dignitary end up murdered and mutilated in rural California? Who would dare target a man with such vast resources and connections? The river showed signs of multiple dump sites, suggesting the body had been moved or partially disposed of in stages. When detectives reviewed flight and phone records, one name appeared repeatedly: Lena Hart. She was the last known person in contact with Omar before his disappearance. The discovery of the torso marked the beginning of a chilling investigation, one that would peel back layers of deceit, greed, and obsession hiding beneath their secret affair. Once Sheikh Omar's body was identified, the focus of the investigation shifted entirely to Lena Hart. Detectives began tracking her movements in the days surrounding his disappearance. Her phone location data revealed strange patterns: late-night drives, extended trips to isolated areas, and sudden signal losses. When police visited her Sacramento home, they found it meticulously cleaned, but something felt wrong. The air smelled faintly of bleach, and traces of cleaning agents covered nearly every surface. Forensic teams sprayed luminol, and under the blue glow, faint outlines of blood splatter appeared on the living room floor and near the kitchen sink. It was clear a violent struggle had taken place. Investigators obtained surveillance footage from local stores and made a disturbing discovery. 2 days before Sheikh Omar's disappearance, Lena had purchased several items: a hacksaw, duct tape, plastic sheets, and heavy-duty gloves. She paid in cash, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap pulled low. The purchases painted a chilling picture of premeditation. When police tracked her credit card records, they found a recent withdrawal of nearly $50,000 from an account connected to Omar's financial transfers. A break came when Lena's car, a black SUV, was discovered abandoned near a remote hiking trail 2 hours north of Sacramento. Inside were traces of blood matching Omar's DNA, a broken bracelet clasp, and tire mud consistent with the riverbank where the torso was found. Despite the mounting evidence, Lena had vanished completely. Friends told police she had spoken of leaving the country and starting over somewhere where no one knew her name. Every clue pointed to her as the killer, yet she remained elusive. With no body parts, no witnesses, and a missing suspect, investigators were left chasing a ghost through a trail of blood and secrecy. As the investigation deepened, detectives began uncovering the motive behind the brutal killing. Financial records from Sheikh Omar's overseas accounts revealed sudden and suspicious transfers. For years, he had been funneling large sums of money to Lena through shell companies disguised as real estate investments. But just weeks before his final trip to California, those transfers abruptly stopped. Bank statements showed he had not only cut off her allowance, but also moved millions of dollars into private trusts that she could no longer access. To investigators, it was the first clear sign of tension between the two. Friends of Lena described her as growing increasingly unstable during that period. She had complained that Omar was pulling away, that he had promised her a new home and a future together, but suddenly went silent. One friend recalled her saying she wouldn't let him walk away so easily. Police later learned that Omar had recently married a younger woman in Dubai, a secret Lena might have discovered just before his visit. The betrayal, combined with her financial collapse, could have sparked a violent confrontation. Phone records added another layer to the story. In the days before his arrival, Lena had searched online for topics related to body disposal, chemical cleaners, and tracking prevention. Detectives also found evidence that she had rented a power saw from a local equipment store using a fake name. Everything pointed toward planning, not impulse. Investigators theorized that she lured Omar to her home under the pretense of reconciliation, then killed him during an argument. Whether driven by rage, fear, or greed, her actions were deliberate. The once glamorous affair that had begun with passion and secrecy had turned into a deadly obsession fueled by control, betrayal, and the desperate need for revenge. Days after the discovery of Sheikh Omar's torso, investigators turned their attention to the digital trail Lena had left behind. They combed through her financial transactions, online searches, and any communication linked to her devices. One lead caught their attention: a wire transfer of $500,000 from one of Omar's Dubai accounts to an offshore bank in the Caribbean. The transfer had been initiated using Omar's encrypted tablet, which was missing from the crime scene. Digital forensics traced the IP address to a small motel in Arizona. Surveillance footage from the motel painted a disturbing picture. A woman, dressed in dark clothing and wearing a wig along with sunglasses, had checked in under a fake name. She carried several large duffel bags and never once looked directly at the camera. Investigators quickly compared her build, gait, and fingerprints to Lena Hart and found enough to confirm it was indeed her, though her appearance had been deliberately altered. Inside the motel room, law enforcement discovered alarming evidence: blood-stained gloves, a pair of scissors, and a piece of plastic that matched the wrap found on Omar's torso. A single gold cufflink engraved with Arabic lettering, the same type Omar wore daily, was also recovered. The evidence suggested that Lena had carefully planned every step of her escape. She had researched ways to avoid detection, purchased disguises, and used cash for all transactions to leave no trail. Authorities concluded that she had likely dismembered and transported the body in stages, knowing that doing so would reduce the risk of leaving a complete trace. Yet despite the clarity of the digital and physical clues, Lena remained at large, slipping further into anonymity. The case had shifted from a local homicide to an international manhunt, with every lead pointing toward a woman who seemed to be always one step ahead, leaving behind a trail of terror, calculation, and unanswered questions. 2 weeks after the initial discovery of Sheikh Omar's torso, the case took an even darker turn. A hiker exploring a remote area near the edge of a dried riverbed in Nevada stumbled upon what appeared to be a shallow grave. At first glance, it seemed like discarded trash or a forgotten campsite, but closer inspection revealed human remains carefully wrapped in plastic. When authorities arrived, it became clear that the lower half of Omar's body had been buried there. The gruesome discovery confirmed what investigators had long suspected: the murder had been planned and executed with chilling precision. Forensic experts examined the remains and found evidence of careful dismemberment. The cuts were clean, suggesting the use of power tools, and indicated that the body had been transported in multiple trips. Soil and plant material clinging to the plastic suggested the grave had been dug recently, and tire tracks nearby matched the pattern of Lena Hart's abandoned SUV. Investigators concluded that she had likely driven the vehicle multiple times to transport the body in sections, choosing remote locations to avoid detection. The meticulous planning indicated not only premeditation, but also an understanding of forensic science and law enforcement procedures. The discovery deepened the urgency of the search for Lena. Authorities found additional evidence at the burial site, including gloves, a small toolbox, and remnants of plastic wrap identical to that used on the torso found in the river. Investigators also noted footprints and impressions that suggested she had been cautious yet determined, taking the time to carefully place each piece of the body. Meanwhile, Sheikh Omar's family in Dubai demanded answers, adding international pressure to the already tense investigation. The brutality of the murder, combined with Lena's ability to evade capture, painted a chilling portrait of a calculated killer. As the search expanded across state lines, authorities realized they were dealing with someone who had both the means and the cunning to vanish completely, leaving behind only traces of a horrific crime. The discovery of Sheikh Omar's lower body intensified the investigation, and authorities realized they were facing a fugitive who had managed to stay several steps ahead. Interpol was alerted, and airports, seaports, and border crossings across North America were placed on high alert. Lena Hart became the focus of a nationwide manhunt. Her face circulated through news outlets, social media, and international police channels. Every lead was followed, yet she remained elusive, leaving investigators frustrated and alarmed. Reports soon surfaced that a woman matching Lena's description had been seen boarding a private charter plane in northern Mexico. She was traveling under a falsified identity, carrying minimal luggage and avoiding security cameras wherever possible. Authorities traced her movements through hotel check-ins, ATM withdrawals, and intermittent cell tower pings, but each trail seemed to vanish almost as soon as it appeared. Investigators suspected she was using a network of smugglers and underground contacts to move across borders undetected. In the meantime, Sheikh Omar's family in Dubai applied immense pressure on U.S. authorities. They demanded justice and full transparency, fearing that the world's attention on the case could tarnish their reputation. Media coverage exploded, reporting every detail of the murder, Lena's disappearance, and the international manhunt. Experts on criminal behavior speculated on her psychological state, suggesting she may have been acting with a combination of calculated revenge and survival instinct. Despite numerous tips and alleged sightings across Central America, Lena remained a ghost. The FBI issued a red notice through Interpol, labeling her one of the most wanted fugitives connected to an international homicide. Her ability to vanish in the face of modern surveillance underscored both her resourcefulness and determination. As weeks turned into months, the hunt for Lena Hart became not just a search for a killer, but a global pursuit of a woman who had orchestrated one of the most shocking and meticulously planned murders of the decade. Years passed, but the mystery surrounding Sheikh Omar's murder refused to fade. Lena Hart remained untraceable, her whereabouts a constant source of speculation and fear. Authorities continued to investigate every lead, yet each tip seemed to lead to a dead end. Some believed she had fled to South America, possibly changing her appearance through surgery and living under a new identity. Others speculated she may have perished while trying to remain on the run, her body never discovered, leaving the case forever incomplete. Sheikh Omar's family in Dubai struggled with grief and outrage, their demands for justice growing louder with each passing year. The brutality of the crime, combined with the international attention it garnered, fueled public fascination. True crime documentaries, podcasts, and news specials dissected every detail of the murder, the dismemberment, and Lena's disappearance. Experts analyzed the case as an example of obsession, betrayal, and the dark side of secret relationships. Psychologists debated Lena's motives, considering whether her actions had been driven more by revenge, fear, or cold calculation. The case also left a lasting mark on law enforcement, who continued to study it for insights into premeditated murder and fugitive behavior. Investigators noted how Lena had exploited technology, travel networks, and human psychology to evade capture, leaving a trail of carefully orchestrated misdirection. The half-body in the Sacramento River and the lower remains in Nevada became chilling symbols of a crime that had shocked two continents. Despite the passage of time, the murder of Sheikh Omar Al-Fahim remains officially unsolved. Lena Hart's fate is unknown, and the case stands as a grim reminder of how a single act of violence can ripple across countries, families, and the public imagination. The story continues to haunt those who followed it, a testament to the dangers of hidden lives, forbidden affairs, and the deadly consequences of obsession, secrecy, and betrayal.